Hello everyone, welcome back, and today we are going over the new tropical systems, and that is correct, systems. We have two of them, and we are also going to be reviewing the slightly strange severe weather outbreak that is possible today and through tomorrow and upcoming days. So we are going to start off with the tropical outlook. This is from the National Hurricane Center, and this did come out at 7:42 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I do want to let y'all know that there is a new National Hurricane Center update at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So by the time you're watching this, some of this information may have changed, but I do expect this in the next update to get to an 80% chance, but we will talk about that shortly. So I'm going to start off with this one in the Caribbean. This has a 30% chance to develop in the next 7 days, and then a 10% chance to develop in the next 48 hours. But not much, most likely not much is going to happen with that system. But this one back here in the red is definitely the one to watch, and this has a 70% chance to develop in the next 70% chance to develop in the next 7 days, and then a 40% chance to develop in the next 48 hours. And what I mean by develop is develop into a tropical depression or a tropical storm. And I'm going to read what NOAA actually said about this. They said, a tropical wave located several hundred miles west-southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands continues to produce disorganized showers and thunderstorm activity. Environmental conditions are forecast to be conducive, and development of the system is anticipated. A tropical depression or tropical storm is likely to form this weekend several hundred miles east of the Windward Islands while the system moves westward at 15 to 20 miles per hour. So let's take a look at the models for these storms. And I'm using Tropical Tidbits. This is a free site, but it also has a paid version. So starting off here with the GFS, I'm going to start this around 2 p.m. June 27th, 2024, and you can see that tropical wave down here just to the northeast of South America. We're going to keep this going, and we can see then it pops off that L, which means low pressure, and that is a 1006 millibar low. And we'll keep this moving, and it does continue to develop, and then it actually gets that low down to 994, which then this would be most likely a tropical storm, and most likely maybe a strong one. Then we'll keep this moving, then it gets to 988 millibars. That could be a low-end Category 1, but most likely a strong tropical depression. But then it gets to 983 millibars, then this most likely would be a Category 1 hurricane, and that would be our first hurricane of the season, and that would be Hurricane Beryl. Then we'll keep this moving. It still continues to get stronger. That's 973. That's most likely strong Category 1, maybe even a low-end Category 2. And then this wants to get all the way to 967 millibars. So that most likely would be a Category 2 hurricane, but then it gets hit by this area when it moves into this area to the south of Puerto Rico being right under my cursor. This high pressure likes to throw air down here, and it creates a lot of shear, and that shreds tropical systems, because tropical systems do not like shear. But tornadoes love shear. Not to get anyone confused though, but I'm going to stay on the tropical subject for now. But then this does get kind of shredded by that, and then this weakens and may even run into Cuba. But then GFS shows it getting into the Gulf and maybe reforming into a tropical storm or a tropical depression, and then possibly hitting Texas, but that's pretty far out. So this is a kind of unreliable time for this model. So we're going to switch here to the GFS. And as you can see, I already have that tropical wave right here. And then there's that one in the Caribbean that has that 30% chance of development, but not thinking much is going to happen. But we're going to keep this moving, and you can see that tropical wave pops off that L. It's a 1010 millibar low pressure, and it sustains around that, but then it does start to get a little stronger, and then could get into 1002 millibar. And what we're actually going to do on the fly here is we're going to go to the previous run. This is the longer run, so we can continue this out. And then, yeah, it gets there to possibly 1005 millibars. And then we'll keep this moving. Tries to sustain itself around 1000 millibars, but then it could get to 996, maybe even 990. But don't pay too much attention on that. But this most likely will be a tropical storm. But the European model does have it hit Central America as a tropical storm. And then this would most likely just die out after that. So that was the tropical outlook. Let's get into the severe weather outlook. So first I'm going to mention this marginal risk in the southeast. This does include portions of Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. And there is a less than 2% tornado risk in the southeast, a 5% wind risk in the southeast, and then a less than 5% hail risk in the southeast as well. And that actually has changed. It was a 5% hail risk earlier this morning, but can't rule out some small hail and maybe even an isolated spin up or two. Alright, so now let's look at this enhanced risk in portions of Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, and portions of Wyoming. Sorry about that. And we have two areas of a tornado in this area. So first, we're going to mention this 5% tornado risk in portions of Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, and Nebraska. And this does actually include very small portions of Colorado. And then there is a small 2% tornado risk over to the west, and that is included in that slight risk. This does not include Salt Lake City, but this is extremely close. So Salt Lake City still need to watch out there. But then this wind risk is major. This is a 30% risk of wind exceeding 60 mile per hour winds. But then in that hatched area, that's a 10% risk of winds exceeding 75 miles per hour, which is hurricane force wind gusts. And then we have another significant risk, and this is for hail. So inside of that 30% risk, that's a 30% chance for hail. And then in that hatch risk, that's a 10% risk of hail exceeding 2 inches in diameter. Let's take a look at the day 2 risk. We have a day 2 slight risk. This does include portions of Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, and Minnesota. And we have a 5% tornado risk. This does include Kansas City. And then we have a 2% tornado risk surrounding that. That does include Minneapolis, Minnesota, Des Moines, Iowa, Omaha, Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska, Colby, Kansas, and Wichita, Kansas. And then there's also a 15% wind risk inside of that, with a 15% significant wind risk, which means a 10% chance of winds exceeding 75 miles an hour, which is hurricane force. And this does include Colby and McCook, Kansas. Excuse me, my brain is still tired. And then we have a 15% hail risk that also includes Des Moines, Iowa, Omaha, Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska, but then we have a significant hail risk inside of that does include Colby and McCook, Kansas. Excuse me, McCook is in Nebraska. Sorry about that. And then we have a day 3 slight risk. This does include Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Columbus, Ohio. And as of now, this is just a 15% chance for severe weather. And then we have a day 4 15% risk of severe weather, and then a day 5 15% risk of severe weather. One of these or both of those, we could get a small 30% risk, but if that were to happen, I think it'd be on the day 5 risk, but still, I think it will most likely maintain just that slight risk as of now. So, let me refresh this, see if we have any new information on the tropic outlook. And no, we do not. Just review this once again very fast. 10% chance of development in the next 48 hours, and then a 30% chance of development in the next 7 days for 94L, which is Invest 94L, and then a 40% chance to develop in the next 48 hours for 95L, which is Invest 95, and then a 70% chance of development in the next 70 days, or for the next 7 days, excuse me, and that's also for Invest 95L. So with that, thank you for watching. Make sure to tune in for more updates, and I will see y'all in the next one. Have a good one, everybody.